Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Not even close. At first, I told myself it was just the lighting, a fuzzy video feed, bad Wi-Fi, maybe a shadow from the curtains. But deep down, I knew. I knew something was off the second Joanna answered with that tight, too sweet tone. "Hey, Mom. Sorry I missed your call earlier. We were just—" She glanced away, like she was checking for someone. "Todd made lunch. It's been a calm week." Calm. It used to mean peaceful. Now it sounded like code for, he hasn't exploded yet. I tried to play along, asked about the book club she used to love, if she'd seen the cherry blossoms in her neighborhood. Her answers were clipped, vague, like she was scared to say too much, or scared I'd say the wrong thing. Then she reached for something on the table, and the phone tilted slightly in her hand. That's when I saw it. Right behind her, on the hallway door, a bolt lock, thick, industrial. Bolted from the outside. I stared at it, frozen. Was she in a room that could lock her in? Why would a hallway door need a bolt like that? She didn't notice, just laughed, too loud, too fast. "Todd's been good to me lately," she said again, but now I heard the hollowness behind it, the kind of hollowness that comes after being emptied out one piece at a time. I didn't confront her, didn't scream. I just smiled back, told her I missed her, and ended the call. Then I sat in my kitchen, staring at my own reflection in the black screen. What kind of mother lets her daughter disappear like that? What kind of mother waits for proof? I didn't even realize I was crying until my tea turned cold. That night, I packed a bag. No one knew I left, not my friends, not even Kimberly, my older daughter, who'd always had a strained relationship with Joanna. She used to call her sensitive, like it was a flaw. "Don't get involved, Mom," Kimberly once told me when I worried out loud. "You know how Joanna is, always making things bigger than they are." But this wasn't dramatic. This was something else, something darker. By morning, I was parked outside a dull brown apartment complex in the city, the kind of place that looks lived in but unloved. A row of rusting mailboxes, dead plants on balconies, curtains always drawn. I walked up 3 flights of stairs, heart pounding with every step. My hands were trembling when I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, waited, pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. That's when I heard a gravelly voice behind me. "You her mama?" I turned. An older woman stood in the doorway next to Joanna's. Maybe late 60s, hair up in curlers, an oversized sweatshirt that said, "Don't poke the bear." And, no joke, a parrot sitting casually on her shoulder. "Oh, yes," I said, blinking. She wiped her hands on an apron that had a knife tucked into the waistband. "'Bout time," she muttered. Then she gave me a look, not judgmental, not cruel, just tired. She'd been in there a lot lately, never opens the blinds, doesn't answer. Once I heard her crying through the wall. The woman squinted. "You didn't know?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. "No," I finally said. "I didn't." "Well," she huffed, "go ahead and knock yourself out, but I doubt she'll come to the door. That man don't like visitors." "That man?" I asked. She waved a hand. "Husband, boyfriend, whatever he is. Always watching her like a guard dog. My parrot hates him, screeches every time he hears his voice. That's how you know." The parrot squawked, almost on cue. "Bad man." My heart stuttered. She raised a brow. "Want to use my phone? I'd call someone." "No," I said slowly. "No, thank you. I just need a minute." She nodded, as if she'd seen it all before. Maybe she had. As she turned back inside, she called over her shoulder. "You're not the first mama who's knocked too late. Don't be the next one." I stood there for a moment, staring at the door. How long had Joanna been alone in there? How many times had she smiled like that, scared, pretending? I tried the handle, locked. I knocked again. No sound. I pressed my palm against the door like she might feel it through the wood. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I called the police. "Hi, yes, I think my daughter might be in danger." I had never seen a deadbolt on the outside of an apartment door before. Not like that. It wasn't security. It was control. I stared at it, fingers hovering over my phone. Should I call the police? Was I overreacting? But then I remembered her voice on that video call, the smile that was just wrong. I pressed 911 before I could change my mind. Yes, my name is Madison Dawson. My daughter might be in danger. She hasn't been responding and, no, she's an adult. But the door is locked from the outside, and her neighbor mentioned screaming. They were there in 8 minutes. 2 officers and a building super with a ring of keys and the posture of a man who knew better than to ask too many questions. This her place? The taller officer asked me, hand on his holster. I nodded. Yes, she lives with her husband, Todd, but I think something's wrong inside. I think... We'll check it out, ma'am. The key clicked. The door creaked open, and the smell hit me before the visuals did. Damp, mold, sweat, like something had been rotting behind drywall. I stepped in behind the officers and froze. The air was heavy, not just stale, dead. Curtains stapled shut like someone was afraid of sunlight. A single cracked lamp hummed in the corner. Unopened mail stacked like bricks. No photos, no plants, no life. And then the smell hit me, like dust and old fear. Back bedroom's down there, one officer murmured, already moving. I followed. My legs didn't feel attached to my body, just momentum and dread. The door creaked open. I gasped. My hand shot to my chest. Joanna, curled up on a mattress with no frame, no sheets, no pillow, just a filthy grey blanket wrapped around her knees like armor. The room had no windows, no air vent, no light, except the flicker from the hallway bleeding in. She didn't scream. She didn't even speak. She flinched, eyes wide, dull, not empty, just exhausted. Sweetheart? My voice cracked as I stepped in. It's me. Her head tilted slightly, like the sound confused her. She squinted, unsure if I was real. I wasn't supposed to have visitors today, she whispered. My knees almost gave out. The officer knelt. What's going on, miss? You live here? Joanna pushed herself up slowly. Her arms trembled. I was calming down. He says I need time to regulate. To regulate? I repeated, stunned. She nodded. Sometimes I get too worked up. He says that's dangerous. For me. For him. I stepped closer. She pulled her sleeves instinctively, too late. Faint bruises bloomed across her wrists, like memories trying to fade but forgetting how. The officer's voice was quieter now. He locks you in here. She hesitated, then nodded once. He says it's safer, that if I just stay still long enough, I'll get better again. There was silence after that, the kind that splits the world into before and after, and in that silence, I knew. This wasn't just a locked room, it was a cage built out of gaslight and fear, and my daughter had been living inside it. I didn't realize I was crying until one of the officers handed me a tissue. My hands were shaking. Is he here now? The other officer asked. Joanna shook her head. Work. He doesn't let me leave while he's gone. Says I get confused. The officer turned to me. Ma'am, she needs medical attention. This isn't legal. I nodded, still stunned. I'll take her, please. Let me take her home. We packed fast. Or I did. Joanna didn't even have a real bag, just a tote stuffed with a sweater, a hairbrush, and one of those novelty mugs that said, "You're enough," chipped on the side. I wanted to scream. I wanted to destroy something. But she was standing right there, small, silent, afraid. So I just wrapped her in my coat and guided her to the car. The neighbor, Marge, with her parrot and her bluntness, stepped outside as we passed. Told you, she muttered. She didn't belong with a man like that. I looked at her. Did you hear anything? Did you ever try? I brought soup once. He sent it back. Her parrot squawked. Bad man, bad man. I nodded. Thanks. For noticing, at least. She watched Joanna shuffle into my car like a wounded deer. You get her safe, yeah? I didn't respond. I just closed the car door and drove. 6.5 hours back home. Joanna slept most of the way, curled against the window, as if her body finally allowed itself to rest once it knew no one would slam a door on her. It wasn't until we were home, safe, that Kimberly called. "Mum, why didn't you tell me you were going to the city?" I stared at my phone. "You wouldn't have come." "That's not fair." "No?" I sat on the edge of the bed where Joanna now slept, wrapped in fresh sheets and the same stuffed animal she'd had since she was 10. "You told me she was dramatic, remember that? When she cancelled dinner last year and showed up with sunglasses indoors. You said she was pulling a stunt." "She said she fell." "She didn't." There was silence. "Okay," Kimberly finally said. "Okay. But Mom, Todd's been helping Brian with the catering business. He's invested a lot. We didn't want to—" "You didn't want to lose the money." "I didn't think it was that bad." I hung up before I could say something I'd regret, but I didn't regret that, not one bit. The next morning, I walked into Joanna's room with tea and toast. She sat up slowly, blinking against the sunlight. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" I asked softly. She nodded and started to cry, not loud, not dramatic, just steady, silent tears as she said, "I thought I was going crazy. He told me I was. Every time I tried to speak, he'd twist it, make it sound like I was attacking him. He isolated you. He told me my memory was failing. He'd move things and say I'd misplaced them. He hid my keys for a week and then said I wasn't responsible enough to go out alone." I reached for her hand. She let me. "He called the bedroom the calm room, said I'd feel better in there, said the world was too loud, that I needed space." She paused. It felt like a tomb. My throat closed. "But Mom," she whispered, "I believed him." And that was the part that broke me most. I thought the hardest part would be getting Joanna out. Turns out the harder part is staying out, because silence has a way of following you home, sliding under the doors, settling in the corners where daylight can't quite reach. She slept downstairs on the sofa that first week, said the guest room felt too far from the exit. Every night before bed, she'd whisper, "Mum, you locked the door, right?" Every night I'd answer, "Twice." Neither of us slept much anyway, so while she dozed on and off, I tunneled through 25 years of paperwork like a mole with a mission. Bills, receipts, half-filled journals, even the glitter-covered photo boxes I'd been meaning to organize. Anything that might explain how my kid landed in a room with no windows, and how I missed every sign. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I yanked open the laundry room junk drawer, and there it was, her first phone. Plastic glitter rim, cracked screen, battery at 3%. The one she begged for sophomore year because all my friends have smartphones, Mom. I held it like it might burn me. Would it still work? Would she hate that I looked? I hunted down an ancient charging cable, said a little prayer to the gods of outdated tech, and plugged it in beside the kitchen toaster. A faint lightning bolt icon flashed. Alive. Joanna shuffled into the kitchen, hoodie swallowing her frame. "You're up early," I tried for cheerful. Her eyes flicked to the phone. "You kept that?" I shrugged. "Turns out I keep everything." A fragile smile. Then she poured coffee, hands trembling just enough to make the spoon clink. When she retreated to the couch, I opened the phone. Lock screen. A college photo of her and her late dad at a baseball game. Passcode. I tapped her birthday. Nope. I tried mine. Nope again. Then I heard a soft voice from the doorway. 0007. I turned. She gave a tiny shrug. Easy to remember. 4 zeros, 1 7, and the phone unlocked with a chime that felt too cheerful for what followed. Texts, playlists, selfies from better years. Nothing strange, until I found an album named Chill sitting under the recently deleted folder. Inside, 24 photos, close-ups of bruises, a black eye swollen shut, backgrounds cropped so no room, no furniture could be identified. My breath hitched but wouldn't leave. At the end of the roll, a blurry selfie, Joanna in the bathroom mirror, cheeks tear-stained, lips pressed flat. She was whispering something I could almost read. "Please believe me." "Mom?" Her voice floated in from the living room. "Everything okay?" I swallowed. "Just pictures from your road trip days." I lied. She didn't push. Part of her, I think, already knew what I'd found. I kept digging and discovered the voice memos app. A dozen recordings, most only a few seconds. I tapped the newest timestamp. A plate shattered. Her shaky breathing filled the speaker. He said I ruined dinner. He threw the plate. I locked the bathroom door. He's outside now. If I don't answer, tell Mom I tried. The audio ended with 3 quiet knocks. His, not hers. My knees buckled. I sank to the tile, clutching her old phone like it was holy. All this time, she had been calling for me. I just hadn't known where to listen. The recording still echoed in my ears. Her shaky voice, the plate, the door. Tell Mum I tried. Not a metaphor, not a cry for help in hindsight, a direct line, and I'd missed the call. The toaster dinged behind me, too loud, too sharp. I flinched like it had exploded. Footsteps shuffled in behind me, slippers on tile. Mom? Her voice soft, guarded. Did something burn? I wiped at my face fast like I could erase the evidence. Toast popped early, I said, forcing a smile. Scared me. She tilted her head, skeptical, but turned back toward the hallway. And the phone chimed again. I'd hit playback. Her voice filled the room. Tell Mum I tried. Joanna stopped mid-step, froze. Her back was to me, but I saw it in her shoulders. Tension like a wave crashing up her spine. Turn it off. I fumbled to pause it, heart hammering. I didn't mean. She turned slowly. Arms crossed over her stomach, like she was holding something broken inside. I was going to delete those, she whispered. I had them ready. I even had the trash bin open. But part of me thought. A pause. Her voice wavered. Maybe they'd matter someday. I stood up too fast, knees still shaking. They do. My voice cracked. They do, sweetheart. She looked at me like she wasn't sure whether to collapse or scream, but she didn't do either. She just nodded. Once. And for the first time since I'd brought her home, she didn't ask me to lock the door that night. I backed up every file. 3 cloud drives, 2 flash sticks, an old external hard drive with a squeaky motor. If the truth decided to vanish, it was going to have to fight me for it. That night, rain drummed the roof like impatient fingers, and I remembered we still needed blankets. The spares were buried in the attic. I padded up the pull-down ladder, flashlight between my teeth, and waded through boxes labeled School Art, Christmas, Taxes 2011. A smaller box peeked from under an old fishing net. No label, just duct tape starting to peel. Inside, a stack of photos, love notes, and birthday cards my late husband had saved. Middle school awards, dried prom corsages, receipts from their first daddy-daughter ice cream date. He'd kept it all. On top of the pile sat a pale blue envelope, edges frayed. The handwriting punched me in the heart. For my brave girl, open when you need it most. I broke the seal. A single card, baseball on the front, dad humor inside. Never let anyone control your voice. Not a boss, not a boyfriend, not even me. Dad. I pressed the card to my chest and sobbed. Not polite, movie scene tears. Ugly, gasping, years in the making sobs that bent me over the dusty rafters. After a while, I heard the ladder creak. Joanna's whisper floated up. You okay? I wiped dust and mascara off the card. Found something your dad wrote. She climbed 2 steps, stopped. Read it. I did. Her shoulders shook. She sat on the ladder midway, head against the rung. I used to hear his voice in my head, she said, barely audible. Todd called it daddy worship. Said I was stuck in the past. I gripped the rail. Your father knew the difference between love and possession. She let out a shaky breath. I forgot. Then let's remember together. We stayed like that, mother above, daughter below, card crinkled between my fingers, until the rain eased and the house felt less haunted. Morning sunshine looked almost gold on the kitchen tile. Joanna managed half a bagel. Progress. Then my phone buzzed. Kimberly. Mom, Brian's clients are pulling out. Todd says you're spreading lies. Can't you drop this? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Joanna watched me. Kim again? She asked. She thinks money's on the line. Joanna flinched. Of course she does. I typed back, the only lie here is Todd. Protect yourself. Almost instantly, maybe you like drama, Mum. But Brian and I need investors. I clenched my jaw, set the phone face down. Another problem for another hour. But a different text popped up from an unknown number. You took something that belongs to me. No name, no punctuation. Todd. I slid it into a new screenshot folder titled Threats. Evidence grows one line at a time. We needed medical proof. So I called Tracy, my nurse friend at the community clinic. You still have contacts at Cedar Falls Memorial? I asked. Couple, she said. What's up? Looking for records, ER visits, imaging, under Joanna Miller, confidential. Long pause. You're opening a hornet's nest. Already knee-deep in bees, Trace. She sighed. Give me 24 hours. That night, while Joanna attempted a crossword, she kept skipping clues that involved the word hurt. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I answered. Silence. Then breathing. Male. Shallow. Madison, you there? Todd's voice. Syrup over rust. Joanna's head snapped up. I mouthed it's him and hit speaker. He continued, smooth as varnish. I get that you're upset. Let's be civil. Bring Joe back. We'll forgive the trespassing. We can call it a family misunderstanding. Joanna whispered. End it. But I didn't. I steadied my voice. You locked my daughter in a room with no windows. He chuckled. Anxiety, sweet Madison. Doctor's note. She's fragile. Funny, her fragility looks a lot like your fingerprints. His tone hardened. Last chance. You don't want this in court. I smiled at the phone. See you there. Click. Joanna covered her face. He'll get worse. He already did. Now we get better. By Friday, the dining room wall looked like a detective show. Photos pinned in rows, sticky notes with timestamps, arrows linking bruises to ER records Tracy emailed, scans showing contusion, possible fracture, patient reluctant to elaborate. Joanna helped pin them up, hands still shaky. This feels crazy, she murmured, but also like armor. It is armor, I said, sliding the birthday card into a top corner frame. Dad's words stay where everyone can see them. She read the line again, eyes bright. Never let anyone control your voice. Mom, she whispered, I think I want to talk to the police myself. A pause stretched, both terrifying and triumphant. You sure? Her shoulders squared. He stole enough time. He doesn't get my silence, too. In that second, I saw her, really saw her, shoulders back, voice steadying like a tuning fork finally finding pitch. Then let's schedule the call, I said. I'll sit beside you. And if my voice shakes, mine will hold it up. Saturday morning, we set up my laptop on the kitchen table, sunlight pouring in. Officer Reed logged on via video call. He greeted us gently. Take your time, Ms. Miller. Joanna fiddled with the birthday card in her lap. Ready, she said barely. The moment recording started, her lips parted, and no sound came. She glanced at me, panic flickering. I slid the phone across the table, screen lit with her shaky selfie. Please believe me. She inhaled. You see those bruises, officer? They're mine. He told me I tripped. I almost believed that version, but I didn't. She spoke for 20 straight minutes. When her voice threatened to wobble, she gripped the card tighter. Each confession landed like a hammer. The plate thrown, the bathroom door, the windowless room. Halfway through, her phone buzzed. Todd again. She silenced it without flinching. Anything else you want to add? Officer Reed asked. Joanna looked into the webcam. Yeah, I was never hysterical. I was held hostage. Officer Reed's expression softened. We have enough for a formal report. A detective will reach out within 48 hours. When the call ended, Joanna exhaled like she'd been underwater. I wrapped her in my arms. Your voice is yours, I thought, and the whole world just heard it. That evening, Tracy texted me a grainy scan. Todd's request to hospital admin. Kindly remove duplicate files. Patient's mental state renders records unreliable. A smoking gun in neat corporate font. At midnight, Joanna couldn't sleep. We sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, crickets singing backup. She eyed the evidence wall through the window. Think it's enough? It's only the beginning, I said. She tugged her blanket higher. I keep hearing Dad's joke about courage. Bravery's just fear that prayed. I smiled. He'd be proud of you. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm starting to feel proud of me too. And right then, under a sky full of stars we hadn't noticed in years, I realized justice had already started. Not in a courtroom, not on a police form, but here, on a porch where my daughter finally felt safe enough to breathe the night air. Tomorrow, Todd would rage. Kimberly might beg. The legal wheels would grind slow. But tonight, a brave girl reclaimed her voice. And that sound was louder than any lock, any threat, any darkness he could ever throw at us. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and nervous sweat. Hardly the place for closure. And yet the only place big enough to hold everything we were carrying. Joanna sat beside me at the plaintiff's table, fingers braiding and unbraiding her scarf fringe. Across the aisle, Todd maintained that practiced calm. Perfect suit, perfect posture, eyes like frosted glass. Kimberly slipped into the witness row, shoulders hunched, guilt hanging on her like an oversized coat. Our attorney, Harper, leaned in. Stay steady. The evidence folder alone weighs more than his entire defense. Joanna exhaled. Heavy still feels heavy, even if it's on my side. Harper offered a wan smile. That's why we share the lift. The judge entered. Bailiff called order. Opposing counsel launched straight into spin mode. My client never denied a lock existed, Your Honor. He secured the room to prevent self-harm. Ms. Miller was... Harper cut in smoothly. Never diagnosed with a condition requiring imprisonment. We have zero professional recommendations for lock the door from the outside. Todd's lawyer waved a folder. Ms. Miller's emotional instability is well documented. She once smashed a plate during an argument, proof she's a danger to herself and to Todd. Joanna's whisper slid between clenched teeth. He broke that plate. I squeezed her hand. Truth carries. Let it. First up, Tracy, in scrubs and a blazer, reading from Joanna's ER charts. Contusions in varying stages of healing. Patient stated she fell, but injury pattern suggested external force. Opposing counsel tried. Could those forces have been accidental? Tracy's eyebrow arched. If household staircases punch in distinctly shaped bruises, sure. Muffled chuckles rippled through the gallery. Next, Officer Reed played security building footage. Todd entering the apartment with a hardware store bag, labeled industrial-grade deadbolt. Then came the phone evidence. Harper rolled a portable speaker to the stand. I object. Privacy violation, Todd's lawyer barked. Harper tapped the consent form Joanna had signed. Her voice, her right. The courtroom dimmed. Harper hit play. Joanna's recorded whisper filled the speakers. He said I ruined dinner. He threw the plate. I locked the bathroom door. He's outside now. If I don't answer, tell Mum I tried. A hush fell so thick you could hear purse clasps snap shut. Joanna's breaths, ragged, terrified, echoed through oak panels and fluorescent lights. Someone in the gallery sniffed. Another dabbed tears. The judge removed his glasses, wiped them slowly. Continue, he murmured. The second clip, the trembling selfie. Please believe me. Her lips moving, her eyes pleading. Every screen in the evidence slideshow projected the image in silent chorus. Todd's face, usually stone, twitched, jaw tightening, hand flexing on the table. For the first time, panic seeped through his veneer. She approached like walking through water. Brian watched from the back row, pale. Harper spoke gently. Did you ever witness the room where Ms. Miller was confined? Kimberly nodded, voice brittle. Yes, no windows. Mattress on the floor. Did you hear Joanna cry? Through the wall once, I left. Why not help? I thought Todd just needed privacy with her. And he had money in Brian's business. We couldn't lose that. She swallowed hard. I didn't think it was that bad. Across the aisle, Todd's lawyer objected. Speculation. Judge waved it off. Weight goes to credibility. Continue. Harper's tone softened. Do you regret not intervening? Tears finally slipped down Kimberly's cheeks. Every single night. For the first time, Joanna looked at her sister, not with anger, but a sorrow so deep it felt like years poured into seconds. He strutted to the stand, polite smile glued on. I love my wife. She struggles with anxiety. The lock. Her therapist suggested a sensory-reduced environment. Harper stood. Please name said therapist. Todd faltered. He retired. Let's see the paperwork. He tapped the folder. Empty gesture. It's confidential. Harper flipped a page. We subpoenaed every professional you listed. None exist. Care to try again? Todd's smile cracked. Next slide. Email chain Tracy unearthed. Todd offering donations to hospital staff for deleting duplicate records. Harper read aloud. Let's keep the narrative clean. She's not well. She raised an eyebrow. Is bribery your standard medical practice? Todd shifted. It was a misunderstanding. The judge leaned forward. A generous word for falsifying records. The courtroom didn't exhale. Not even when the judge walked in. It was like we were all holding our collective breath, waiting for someone to blink first, to break the tension that had been building since the first testimony. The judge shuffled his papers with deliberate calm. No drama, no speeches. Evidence demonstrates a pattern of coercive control, he said, voice even, but not without weight. Effective immediately, permanent restraining order. Mr. Miller is to remain no less than 300 feet from Ms. Miller. Joanna's grip on my hand tightened. The judge continued. Mr. Miller's existing power of attorney documents are hereby revoked. Furthermore, this court recommends a full psychological evaluation prior to the defendant seeking any future guardianship privileges. One sharp gavel crack. That was it, but it sounded like a door being bolted shut behind him. Todd didn't move. Not a blink. His jaw was so tight you could see the muscles twitch like he was chewing glass. His lawyer leaned in fast, whispering furiously. But Todd, he just stared straight ahead. Outside the courtroom, the backlash picked up speed like a landslide. That afternoon, HR at his firm sent out a quiet memo. Suspension pending internal review. By 5 p.m., Brian's catering business had lost 2 investors. One just left a voicemail that said, "We don't do business with headlines." And Todd's parents, stone silent, the same people who once gave Joanna a Bible for Christmas with her name spelled wrong, suddenly had nothing to say. But the moment that carved itself into history happened on the courthouse steps. Microphones everywhere. Questions flying. Ms. Miller, do you feel vindicated? Joanna paused. No smile, no tears. Just calm. She pulled out Dad's birthday card, held it up to the cameras. Never let anyone control your voice. Flashbulbs popped, not a sound from the crowd. And Todd, he pushed past it all, face red, neck stiff, fists clenched. A reporter called out, "Do you regret installing that lock?" He didn't answer, but his shoulders twitched, first visible crack in a man who thought he was made of stone. We reached the parking lot. Sunlight felt warmer than it should. Joanna inhaled. "It's over." "Part of it," I corrected gently. "Healing's the long game." Kimberly approached, cheeks blotchy. "I'm sorry." Voice barely audible. Joanna studied her. "I know. A beat. Next time listen sooner." Kim nodded, tears threatening again. "I will." Brian lingered a few feet back, phone buzzing. Another investor gone, probably. Maybe it would finally click that numbers aren't worth lives. That evening we sat on the porch, same blanket, different weight. "Mom," Joanna traced the birthday card edges. "Do you think Dad saw today?" I squeezed her hand. "I think he shouted 'about time' from whatever cheap bleachers heaven has." She actually laughed. Light, genuine. Sound I hadn't heard in years. Across town, Todd's condo lights went dark. Foreclosure notice looming. Social feeds flooded with supportive hashtags for Joanna. Even Marge sent a text. "Parrot says congrats." He's a good judge. Joanna leaned back. I'm not afraid to close my eyes tonight. I looked at her, really looked. Bruises had faded, but something brighter took their place. Sleep, I said. Your voice can rest now. And as the sun dipped behind maple trees, I realized justice isn't always iron bars and sirens. Sometimes it's one clear sentence echoing in a wooden room, believed by everyone who matters. Please believe me, we did. And that changed everything. The first time Joanna walked into Dr. Alvarez's office, she kept one foot pointed toward the exit, as if therapy were a bus stop she could bail from at any second. Now she greets the woman with a hug and steals the extra mint from her candy bowl. Progress looks strange sometimes. Remember, Dr. Alvarez tells her, pen poised above the notepad, healing isn't a staircase. It's a spiral. You'll pass the same view, just a little higher each time. Joanna rolls that sentence over in her mouth like hard candy. Later, she'll quote it to shelter residents who sit in folding chairs, hands hidden in sleeves, wondering if freedom feels as lonely as captivity. The room smells like burnt coffee and whiteboard markers. A dozen women, ages 18 to 70, circle up. Joanna clicks on the wireless mic, voice calm. I lived in a room with no windows, she starts, letting the words settle. But I have a voice now. One woman, new purple scarf, hiding a neck bruise, whispers, How did you keep hope? Joanna doesn't sugarcoat. Some days I didn't. That's why I borrow yours tonight, and tomorrow you borrow mine. Deal? A shaky nod, a ripple of soft laughter. Hope on layaway, interest-free. The Women's Centre booked a community theatre, red velvet seats, sticky floor from decades of school plays. I volunteer backstage, pin a tiny microphone to Joanna's collar. You okay? I ask, tugging the cord into place. She takes a breath. I used to panic ordering coffee. Now I'm talking to 300 strangers. That's hilarious, right? More heroic than hilarious, I smile. House lights dim. Kimberly slips into a back row, arms folded, as if applause might burn her palms. I spot the tension but file it away. Tonight isn't about that wound. Joanna steps into the spotlight, card in hand. No shaking, no whisper. A hush spreads like snowfall. My dad wrote this when I turned 16, she says, voice steady. I hid it behind a stack of yearbooks, forgot it existed until the night we started building evidence. It felt like he'd tucked courage in an envelope, saved it for when I ran out. She reads, Never let anyone control your voice. Not a boss, not a boyfriend, not even me. For half a heartbeat, the room doesn't breathe. Then applause detonates. People rise in waves, like hope deciding to stand. Joanna's eyes glisten. She waits for quiet, then adds, My voice was never gone. It was just waiting for a microphone. She turns, points to the projection screen. Photos of the windowless room, then the evidence board, then a selfie smiling in open sunlight. If you're in the dark right now, remember a wall is just a paper target once you start throwing truth at it. Crowd surges to its feet again, louder. Cameras flash. Somewhere in the back, a woman sobs, not because she's broken, but because she sees the exit sign now. Joanna bows, card still in hand, knuckles white yet triumphant. Donors sip cheap champagne, volunteers hawk silent auction baskets. Joanna signs program leaflets like a rock star, only her currency is courage. A young man approaches, press badge dangling. Phenomenal talk. Can we quote the birthday card line? Joanna grins. Quote Dad. He'd love that. Kimberly hovers near the punch bowl. I walk over. She did well, Kim murmurs, eyes on her shoes. Very. I wait. No apology comes. She sighs. I'm still figuring out how to be useful without feeling like a villain in my own family. That's your work, Kim, not hers. I soften. But you showed up tonight. First rung on the spiral, remember? She nods, cheeks damp. Tell Joe I'm proud, even if I haven't earned front row seats yet. Maybe that's guilt. Maybe that's shame. Either way, I tuck her words in my pocket. She'll hand them over herself when ready. Back home, the moon slants across the garden. Joanna sips peppermint tea, voice loose with relief. Did you hear that one lady yell, "Break the locks"? I laugh. Could have been your dad, reincarnated. She sets the mug down. I used to think healing would mean forgetting. Tonight I realized it means remembering, but on my own terms. Wind chimes clink. Crickets start a night symphony. She asks, "Do you miss the old version of me?" I shake my head. Old, new, both are you. I just missed the parts you had to hide. She leans into my shoulder. I'm loud now, Mom. Louder than ever, I agree. Across town, headlines ping on phones. Survivor turns trauma into rallying cry. Todd will read them in whatever rental he can still afford. Every word another brick sealing his relevance away. Kimberly will scroll too, maybe replay the speech, maybe breathe a little easier, knowing the family narrative isn't locked in guilt but written in present tense. Joanna yawns. I'm tired in a good way. Stage lights will do that. She heads inside. Before closing the door, she turns. Night, Mom. Thanks for never switching off the porch light. I blink against sudden tears. It's motion activated. It sees you coming and gets excited. She laughs, the sound clear as church bells. The door clicks. Silence drapes the porch, but it's warm, not lonely. I pull out my phone, open notes, and type a single line for whatever memoir or Reddit post or windswept memory might need it. My daughter was never crazy. She was caged, but she's free now, and the world better be ready for the volume. I hit save, slip the phone away, and let the night hum. Somewhere past the maples, tomorrow is already rehearsing, waiting for her next microphone.